What's up, everybody? Welcome to Smart Spaces Simplified Podcast. Today, I have Kimberly from Living Spaces Outdoor Design. We're going to talk a little bit about how the audio-video industry intersects with the outdoor spaces in terms of design and installation. So, Kimberly, welcome.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and just a basic introduction of what your company is and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm Kimberly Martinez. I'm the owner of Living Spaces Outdoor Design. So Living Spaces is a landscape design and general contracting company for outdoor spaces. So mostly everything that's not attached to the house, we do design work for, and then we work with contractors to execute them.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about the journey and how you got to where you are. You're the owner operator of the company. Mm-hmm. How long you've been in business? What was your inspiration for starting the company? Just a little bit about the company and how you got here.
Well, it's definitely a journey.
Sure. It always is.
So Living Spaces first started in the state of Indiana. It's 11 years old now. Okay. So I'm from Indiana, Indianapolis. So I started the company just as doing design work for other contractors. And then I did some work for homeowners. And the more I did that, the more I got pulled into being like a project manager for some of the designs that I was doing. Like the clients wanted me to help oversee it and just be more involved in, hey, here's your design.
On to the next one.
Buy. Yeah.
Right.
So I did that. And then when COVID hit in 2020, of course, the industry just exploded. It was no longer patios and plants. It was full outdoor living spaces. That used to be really rare. Now that's the standard. So when that happened, my projects were getting bigger. Some of my landscaping contractors that I worked with were like, hey, come work for us. You're a great designer, but we want to teach you about the construction aspect. Mm-hmm. So I went to work with one of them, and it was awesome. I loved it. I got to see not just, I worked on really cool projects, really great clients, and then I got to be a part of executing it and learn all the construction behind it. But I was only there for like 15 months, mm-hmm. and then we moved here to Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And when I got here, I was like, well, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because it's just doing design only work just didn't sit right. I still wanted
fulfilling enough for you.
Yeah, it wasn't. So it was like I drank the Kool-Aid and I couldn't go back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then I decided I would start Living Spaces over again. But this time I wanted to be more involved in the construction side. So I got my general contracting license and reorganized the company so that I could be more involved in
do what you really wanted to do.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. So you mentioned that the requested spaces are larger than they used to be. And I think that I have seen that as well, working in the new construction part of our company. When we go through design of homes, we always ask about what's the outdoor space going to look like. It's like they always have a larger plan for it, even if they don't do it initially. There's always that thought of, fire pit and pool and pergola and patio and all these big ideas. Mm-hmm. So I would like to just walk through a little bit of the process of what it looks like from start to finish, mm-hmm. And you can tell us how that goes from your perspective, and then I'll chime in on how that goes from my perspective, and maybe how that intersects a little bit. So, what are the phases of an outdoor design from first phone call to, shaking hands, enjoy your space? What are the phases?
Well, I mean, definitely the first phone call. Whether somebody calls in to me or they just submit things for a website, I like to talk to people. I really want to get to know them. And I think that's the basis of any great design, is understanding how people interact and live on a personal level. It's not just a patio. Right. It's not just plants. It's not just a pool. It's how they're going to live in that space. And So I really try to set that tone from the first phone call, and then carry that on to our initial consultation.
Mhm.
So in that consultation is at their house, and it's really kind of me really getting to know them still further. How do they have kids? How old are they? Are they looking at grandchildren in the future? How long are they planning to stay in this house? If they're only going to be there for a few years, they probably just want to invest a small amount for resale value. But a lot of people, especially in Pittsburgh, when they purchase a house, they expect to be there for 20 years. So it's really, really important that what they're investing in is how they're going to live there, on the outside. So I even encourage my clients to go on Pinterest, look at photographs. Don't worry if the plants don't live here. That's my job to figure out.
Right.
But I just want to see what they like. Someone might have a vision in their head of going outside and having coffee in the morning and really serene. But they also need that space to, in the afternoon, entertain large groups of people.
Right. So I don't approach it very much differently than that. So you talk about a lot of lifestyle questions, and I would ask those same questions. Do you entertain? Do you have kids? Functionally, from a technical standpoint, how does this need to operate? So you're digging into, where do we want seating areas? Where do we want entertainment areas? Where do we want, fire pits and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Not much different from the way I would approach it is, we want an audio system out there. So I would be talking about zones, okay, so this is a zone of audio because it has its own function and purpose. This is its zone of audio, like hot tubs, right? They need their own zone of audio because the hot tub's so loud and you don't want a speaker on that's on the other side of the space. You're not going to be able to hear it because of the jets. So I have to take into consideration of almost putting a speaker right near a hot tub and it being its own zone. Because if you go outside at night and you want to be in the hot tub, you don't want to have to turn the music up really loud to hear it in the hot tub because most of us have neighbors, right?
Yeah.
So you're going through those lifestyle questions, and I do something very similar. So once we kind of dig into how the space is going to be used, your next step is a site assessment. I assume you have to kind of figure out it's the request versus the reality.
Oh yeah. Like everything, it adds up really quickly.
Sure.
So, and we have challenges to the site. Where especially water, that's a big thing. Stormwater runoff, getting permitting here in Pittsburgh is a huge issue. So assessing the site, knowing where the changes in elevation are. If there are changes in elevation, which we have to account for retaining walls. So those areas of the yard are going to be more expensive. And it's does it make sense to build in that area, or does it make sense to build somewhere else, in a different portion of the yard? So it really boils down to the goals. And I think kind of what you said, creating different zones, in an outdoor design, we create different outdoor rooms.
Sometimes they create themselves.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
So once we have an idea of what the site is, the contours, the changes, site, and really even your neighbors' houses, where's their kitchen? Where's their bathroom? At night, if you're sitting outside, are you going to be looking at someone else's house, or is someone else going to be looking at you?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things we have to take into consideration throughout, evening and daytime.
And in tying it into the house also.
Oh yeah.
It's generally they're not completely disconnected. We got to figure out how to, because they want to walk out of the house into the space. So you're trying to figure out how do we make that connection.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing. The grill needs to be close to the back door or close to wherever your kitchen is. And if it's not, then it needs to be a designated, more fully stocked outdoor kitchen, on the opposite side of the pool or further out in the yard. If you're doing a hot tub, one of my questions is, are you going to use your hot tub in winter? If so, you have to be in running distance for cold weather.
Right.
It's going to be a really cold walk.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a good point.
So yeah, it's those are other things. Yeah, there's a lot to it. I think landscaping is not just like design and art. There's a lot of science involved and a lot of knowing how people move and react in different temperatures. And
yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. When we look at a site assessment after the initial conversations, my considerations are a lot of like, where does the equipment live, right? Because I generally have to have something that is still inside of the house that is being operated outside. So I have to figure out where are we putting cable boxes, where are we putting amplifiers, and I also need to try to make that connection from the house to the space, and functionally try to figure out how to make that work. Yeah. Right. So my site assessments are a lot different than yours because you figure it out, and then I have to tie into the house. I have to tie into the house. You have to tie into the house too with electric and gas, and but generally those are already in the basements or connections are already on the outside of the foundation. I don't always have that luxury.
Yeah, it can be probably a little more straightforward than yours, but in some areas it can be tough.
Yeah. Understood. So the next step would be design. So once we've had initial conversations, once we've kind of looked at what we're working with in terms of site assessment, then you have to go to a design phase, taking both of those things into consideration. So what does that look like? How do you present those to your clients, and what's that process look like?
Well, when I sit down to design, before we get into anything creative, it's really setting out like what is practical and what makes sense. Like where are the rooms going to be situated outdoors? Where are people walking? I think unlike a house, it's easy to create a hallway because you have predefined rooms. Like when you're designing it, when you're outside, you don't have walls. So you kind of have to imagine the walls and how people are walking through the space. One of my big pet peeves is dead space. That's why I bring it up. Like it's very easy to accidentally make a 10-foot hallway on a patio because you've just made an area too wide. But at the same time, it's too small for furniture.
Yeah.
But once you've kind of figured out those movements in the space and how people are going to flow, like that's when you start adding the really creative stuff and start adding the plants. And I like to do a lot of fun inlays with pavers and get really creative.
How do you balance creativity with practicality? I mean, because some people probably have requests that aren't practical.
Yes, that does happen. So I have found through experience that for these larger projects, I have to integrate a concept phase before I get to a final project, a final presentation.
You break your design phase up into 2 phases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the concept phase is where I kind of said we get to where the hallways are going to be, we get to where the rooms are going to be, and I start adding the client's wish list. But there always comes this point in design where something doesn't work. And a sacrifice has to be made, but then there's an opportunity somewhere else. And as the designer, I can think for my clients, which sometimes works, but sometimes it's with these big projects, it's just too complicated. So I really like to have another meeting, sit down with my clients and be like, hey, this is what's working. This is not what's working. These are the challenges that we're having, and get feedback from them. And those designs always turn out better. Like that final presentation is always what they want. And they're just more satisfied with how things are going.
My design process is I do have some cosmetic and functional things to consider. So speakers are probably the most popular thing that we install in outdoor spaces. Do we want them on the side of the house? Do we want them in the landscaping? Are they rock speakers? Are they landscape style speakers? So we do the best we can with limitations to try to cosmetically appeal to your space as well. And then also, is there a television outside? It's a common request. So where do we put it? Is it on the house? Is it in or on a pool house? Is it near the fireplace? So in what type of TV do we use? Everybody wants to try to put their indoor TV outside. That's like playing the lottery. You could win, you could lose quickly there. But an outdoor TV is always the best bet. They're just designed for the temperatures and the dust and the moisture and things like that. So it's an investment, but it's a smart play. So the next phase is when we would begin construction, right? So we got site development and mechanicals and foundations.
Yeah. And kind of going back to like TVs and audio, that is a question that needs to be had at the initial consultation. So because when we get to the construction phase, sometimes that's a later phase to do audio or TV, but the client does want it. And we start building and we're not putting conduit in, like we've created a very expensive problem down the line that could have been solved with $10. And
no different than lighting.
Yeah.
Right?
Same.
Just run conduits. We can run wire through it later. If it's a maybe, just do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you do essentially create walls.
Yes.
With concrete or hardscape or retaining walls that you just can't get around them.
Yeah. Because the projects are so much bigger than they used to be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, like there's not a lot of ways to go back once we've started.
Right.
So it's just better to think forward. And a lot of clients do things in phases. And that's another conversation to have. Like, do you plan to do this all at once? If not, what does a phase one look like?
Right.
And that helps me through the design process of making sure that we're designing around a phase one, but then there's a phase two that we can easily add on. Whether that's a pool or audio or irrigation or lighting.
Right. Scaling is important. We have similar conversations with our clients about, because not everybody can do it all from the start. Finances are a barrier. Time's a barrier. There's barriers. So scaling is something we talk to everybody about. What is the overall vision versus what are we doing right now? And then I will help you as you would help them put a plan in place as we could phase it, right? Scale it. So after all your mechanicals in, your conduits are in, I mean, I'm sure that's a very difficult phase because you probably run into additional challenges.
Yeah.
As you start to dig, you run into rock and water and,
you never know what you're going to find underground.
No, you don't.
Like oil barrels. Like I've heard stories. It hasn't happened to me yet. But.
Yeah. Like old wells.
Yes.
Did you ever see a big well underground?
Not me personally, but I've heard stories.
We ran into one on a project. It's just a big hole. You look down and it, like that thing's 100 feet deep. It's just a big concreted or bricked hole in the ground. They're unbelievable.
I think the most interesting thing that we came across was a mainline water pipe 6 inches from the surface.
That never froze.
That apparently never froze and was only 3 feet away from the house that was built. Okay. So someone got a variance, but it was just a unique situation that we weren't prepared for. We thought it was about 6 feet in the other direction.
Yeah. You hit it?
No, we did not.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So then we go on to the finishing phase, right? So we have built the foundation, we've built the walls, we've laid the concrete. What's the final touches of a space look like from your perspective?
God. Well, it's all the fun stuff. Like obviously it's the pavers, it's the plants, it's getting the lighting set up. Even things like the automated screens, the TV, the underdecking. It's the little details. Right. Especially those things tend to get cut from the budget like right away. So they're like a second phase. Right. But when those go in, it's like you can take a deep breath and be like, it's done.
Yeah.
Like there's a room here.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see the completion. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because then it starts to look done rather than just some machines out there and all this gray concrete and stone. And you're like, okay, I mean, I see it, but I don't see it. But once the color starts to get added with the plants and the furniture.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All that really starts to bring it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. No different. Hanging the TVs, firing up the speakers. You can see the reaction in the clients when you start to like put those final touches on. The joy essentially.
Yeah. They're so excited. And they're excited when the demo happens, but like when everything's done, like the final walkthrough is my favorite. It's probably second to when they send me photographs on a weekend of their party or their family. Like that's so much fun. Like seeing them use the space is wonderful.
All right. Yeah. Great conversation over the process there. Couple general questions. So we don't get too many requests from landscape architects or outdoor space contractors saying, oh, hey, I have this project. They have requests or, we'd like to bring you into this project. What do you believe are some reservations from landscape architects or companies similar to yours to not essentially embrace technology into the designs?
I think
because I have the same general conversations with contractors as well when they build a house. Like why aren't you or why aren't the homeowners taking more consideration in the technology? And I think that could also translate to the outdoor spaces. Like, where's the disconnect? I'm trying to figure it out from my own perspective. Like, what's your perspective on that?
It's definitely a lack of education in the industry for landscapers. There's lots of education on pavers and permeability and even lighting. But in audio, it's like, hey, here's an audio package that you can offer to the homeowner. Which 20 years ago was kind of the same thing that they did for lighting. Like lighting has really come into itself. And it's homeowners, when I go meet with them, they're like, we want a lighting package. When I first started, like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, it was something where we would ask for it. We would ask them about it. They were not asking us. So I think audio is in that same realm where people are not quite sure that they can ask for it, or the homeowners don't think they can ask for it, and the contractors aren't sure how to sell it. They're not sure how to explain to the homeowner why it's important. But it is slowly coming around. Like TVs are getting way more popular. Again, there's a lack of education. Like, yeah, you can install the TV, but then you need the speaker so you can actually hear it.
Correct.
And so that's where, yes, we put in a TV, but then 6 months later, the homeowner realizes that they need speakers.
I believe in home building, there's a cultural misconception that it's all wireless and that can all be done later. And it probably translates to your designs as well. Like, oh, I'll just do it later. Everything's wireless. Now, when in reality, it's the complete opposite. Is everything needs a wire, whether it's power or signal. You can't just throw a battery-powered television onto the fireplace.
Yeah, I do believe that. There's definitely, it can be done later. Even for a TV or a heater, if we're doing underdecking, there needs to be backing underneath. And if it's not there, then we can't install it.
Right.
And those are those little things that people just don't realize has to be done. Like you said, it's like, we'll just do this later.
Do it. Yeah.
But you can't.
And Wi-Fi outside is a huge request. That it's a space they don't venture with their laptops to go maybe work. And then the space gets built of somewhat significant distance from their house. And then they realize they don't have Wi-Fi outside. Well, how do we solve that problem? We could have solved that problem before, but no one asked, or the questions weren't asked. And this should be part of the design phase. So I'm going to work outside. Okay. Well, how do you work? I take video calls. You're going to need internet for that.
Yeah.
So, and then it would have been so easy to solve from the beginning. But I like you said, I think it's an education thing. Is the clients don't think to ask.
Mm-hmm.
The contractors don't think to ask until it's too late.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No different than home building. I think it should be part of the checklist. The design. What are you going to use the space for? Kids. Okay. Cool. And do you entertain a lot? Okay. We should probably put some speakers outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. What type of trends are you seeing in the outdoor space today that might be a little bit different than yesterday, right? Early 2000s to early 2010s. What trends were you seeing then that are different than trends today?
Gosh. Back in the day.
Back in my day.
It was a luxury to get a patio, a paver patio. Just having that was, it was a big deal. Getting a grill, a built-in grill, also a really big deal. Yeah. Now they're standard. You have to have one. And even when you're building a new house, a lot of these new houses being built have an outdoor space. They have a built-in grill as part of that package. Mm-hmm. But so what it's really evolved to, eventually we had pools and fire pits and pergolas, but it really is becoming a full outdoor entertainment area. I have a couple I'm working on right now where it's not just the pool, it's how are we going to entertain 20 people? How are we going to entertain my son's, wrestling team, my daughter's basketball team when they're over? They want the TV, they want the lighting, they want fans, multiple spaces for kids to hang out, but also for adults.
Yeah. Put in outdoor showers, keep the people out of the house.
Yes. Yeah. Trying to keep people away from their phone. They're trying to keep their kids away from their phones and entertain.
Sure.
People really want like the whole package, and they want it outside and in their house, more integrated.
Even in Pittsburgh.
Especially in Pittsburgh.
We get the, can I watch this TV in the winter? Yeah, why would you do that? Well, sometimes it's like 40 degrees on a Sunday, and I can go outside and watch the Steelers play.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you get those requests.
You gotta be able to watch it.
You gotta understand the clientele. Yes. Right. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me today. I really enjoyed talking about your business and how it could potentially integrate and intersect into the technology world. So I'm sure we'll be crossing paths again someday.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to work together.
Excellent. Thank you.